Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Get on that as well.
This video and our podcast all week, John, is brought to everybody by DraftKings. We love DraftKings. Download the app, Middlecoff, and what do you do then?
You use the promo code HAM. Get in our DraftKings game. Do it now.
We got a huge game for the Masters. We play all football season long. You want to get in the Haberman and Middlecoff League as well. All right, Middlecoff, I thought about Kyle Shanahan a lot this weekend. You and I have been thinking about him a lot, and I've reached a few conclusions, and I want to share a couple of those conclusions here now.
You think the feeling's mutual?
That he thinks about us a lot? We should send him a bottle of very nice wine when this is all said and done. And,
yeah, we will.
And, the YouTube money comes in. So I think Kyle's being miscast in this whole thing about he loves Mac Jones. I think Kyle is a more aggressive coach. I think Kyle in the biggest moments has taken big swings. And I don't think he's going to draft Mac Jones at number 3. I think he's going to take Justin Fields or Trey Lance.
Why not?
Well, I think Kyle, and if we look at Kyle's biggest moments, the 2 Super Bowls he's coached in, one as an assistant, one as a head coach, a couple things have happened in those games. He has repeatedly, in the biggest moments, been aggressive, and he has repeatedly, in the biggest moments, needed a quarterback that could do things that the 2 quarterbacks he had couldn't do. Let me take you back through a couple Super Bowls. We'll start with Super Bowl 51, the Patriots and the Falcons. I went back and watched some of that game.
28-3, Guy.
Well, they're up 28-12 with 9:44 left in the fourth quarter. They have a 3rd and 1 at their own 36. And what made me think of it was somebody tweeted earlier this week, if Devontae Freeman can pick up Dante Hightower, Julio Jones gets hit on a big bomb, and the Patriots find themselves actually in a bigger hole because the Falcons just score a touchdown. And it was correct. Strip sack, Patriots score, all of a sudden it's 28-20. The next drive, it's 28-20. Falcons actually get down into Patriots territory. They got a 2nd and 11 at the New England 23. They're in field goal range.
Did you watch that whole? Didn't they hit Julio on a crazy-ass pass?
They hit some big play. Yeah.
Yeah.
3:56 left in the game, 2nd and 11. And this is where Kyle Shanahan needs help from his quarterback. He can't have a Mac Jones. Matt Ryan takes a 12-yard sack on the play.
Can't take sacks, Guy. Can't take sacks in field goal range.
New England calls a timeout, 3:56 left. Bing, bang, boom. We know how that game turned out. Super Bowl 54, the play we all remember. Down 24-20. A minute 40 left in the game. They're at midfield. George Kittle stays in to block. Jimmy Garoppolo takes a deep shot, overthrows Emmanuel Sanders. The play we forget is the next play, where I remember watching it live. You probably remember this too.
That was on 2nd down, correct? The shot?
3rd down.
Oh, because you're saying the next play was a 4th down.
The next play is a 4th down. And remember, the play clock expired. The Niners shouldn't have got the play off. But they did. They didn't stop the play. The snap goes off. For a split second, I remember thinking, they caught a break. Then what happened? 4th down and 10, they didn't even throw the ball. Jimmy got sacked. Yeah. I think a couple of those experiences, Kyle being aggressive in the Super Bowl, I bet he thinks he did the right thing. If Devontae Freeman picks up a block, they hit Julio, bam.
I heard him. I don't know where. I heard him, though, within the last year, bring that situation up and talk about that specifically because I guess no one forgets, but the huge narrative around that time was Kyle Shanahan blew the game. And I think a lot of pushback came from football people. Like, it's on, like, his job is not to, it's weird. Like, he's not the head coach. The head coach wants to run. He needs to chime in there and tell him what to do. Kyle's job was to be aggressive, try to score points, which had been working. Right. That's where I've always struggled. Like, do I blame an offensive coordinator for doing what they do well? They had the number 1 offense all season long.
And like you said, they hit some plays to get down the field the next series as well. And
it's weird. We talk about Matt Ryan in 2021. It's a little different. At 16, he was the MVP of the league, right?
But I think we talk about Kyle based on the quarterbacks he's had, not the plays he calls, and the way he wants to play. Like, I don't think Kyle wanted to sit on the football at the end of the first half of the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. What happened on Firefly, that big play that Pat Mahomes hit, Tyreek? Wasp. Mahomes is actually
kept backpedaling.
I think Kyle wants to take more risks than we give him credit for because he's a guy that loves to pound the ball. And he loves to pound the ball, and he's played with Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan and Jimmy Garoppolo. And so we think in some ways it's hard to put him in a box. We talk about him sometimes like he's not a risk taker. But when you watch him, you can tell. that he's a risk taker. Then I start thinking this about Kyle too, John. He's a modern man. Kyle wears flat bills and Yeezys and joggers. That's not a guy that lives in the past.
Joggers.
That's a guy that likes a little flair. For a guy that just wants to pound the ball, he has a little style. He has a little flair. He wants to be cool. He wants to dominate. He wants to embarrass you. He doesn't just want toughness, but he wants toughness.
Are Yeezys what modern people wear, or just what rich, cool people wear?
Rich modern people.
Yeah.
But Fields and Lance are that, man. They're tough and they got flair. I cannot see him making another choice other than those two. I think the way he gets talked about is like those other quarterbacks that he's had are in his DNA. I think his DNA is Fields or Lance. I think his DNA is, I want my shit to be cool, man. Like, I want to punish people, but I want it to be cool. I want it to be modern. I want it to be kind of what we thought we would get from Gruden at times. I think his DNA is Lance or Fields.
Well, I think why people think that is because they run a run-first offense, as does McVay, as does LaFleur. So it just, whenever you're run first, you're like, you're kind of staying closer to the slow lane than you are the fast lane. Because when I think like Andy Reid, people are like, bombs away, right? It's just like,
yeah.
Andy does not want to run it. Like, a run for him is like a screen pass, bombs away. Even though, just thinking about like the Saints game, remember when they were down and like Kyle pulls out this double pass? Like, he does huge bombs a lot. He often has plays where he pushes the ball down the field. And the other thing is, I think people it's easy because we just base it on his previous quarterbacks. And beside Jimmy is the only one where he had control over, right? He had to say yes on the trade, and then he had to say yes on the extension. But they were in kind of no man's land. They just had like a bird in the hand. They didn't want to fuck around with Cousins. They could get Jimmy for cheaper. So it was like they were going to save, $15+ million of guaranteed money. Jimmy was like 70 or 71. Cousins was like 86. So it was just, you're saving a little money if you just thought they were equals. I actually think you could argue that moment, it would have been an easy pivot point. Just let Jimmy go or franchise and trade him and sign Cousins. He didn't do that. Like, that was an open-minded moment. Now you could say, well, John, he had his back against the wall because Jimmy had just won 5 games. It would have been nuts.
Yeah.
But he had the juice to do whatever he wanted. And two, it's just based on previous quarterbacks, which he had zero control over. And he mentioned it, and I think we think about this, and when I say we, I just mean the conventional wisdom. Is he coached Cousins for 3 years? As he said, I coached Kirk Cousins in 3 actual games. He said that on the day they had their press conference. You think about it, you're like, yeah, RG3 took the first couple seasons, and then he got banged up, and Cousins played a little bit. But Cousins became the full-time starter under Jay Gruden. I actually think McVay is a good example of, like, if you just had the ultimate pocket quarterback that can't move, but he's accurate and just plays within the scheme. Well, it's kind of Jared Goff. That's kind of his DNA. And he limits this offense, which they run the same fucking thing. And what did Sean McVay, who Kyle has had a front row seat of seeing and you've always said it's like a vacation when they play Jared Goff because they kick the hell out of him. Kyle's had his front row seat for that. And what did Sean McVay say? I can't do this anymore. Trade first round picks, send Jared, we'll throw in a third, just get me something better. Like, they embraced it. And their buddy, who they all hang out with and who goes back to that quarterback collective that we found out is 9 years old. It was
Kyle
McVay,
visited once.
Yeah, it was McVay, Kyle, Mike, and LaFleur. Well, LaFleur got the best of both worlds. He's like, yeah, hey guys, I got Aaron Rodgers, who keeps saying weird shit on national television, but he's under contract. He's not going anywhere. Now
is he hosting Jeopardy this week? Is that this week?
I think it's tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Monday. Yeah. I saw like the 30-minute like little intro deal. Is pretty funny. He's got this like shit-eating grin on his face. So happy to be doing it. But like that's. Like, ask LaFleur what it's like having that. Like, because their team's kind of flawed, but he kicks so much ass, they won 26 games in 2 years. So I'm with you. I think it's a very – I hate the word lazy analysis because a lot of times lazy analysis, like, there's usually something there with a lazy analysis. Like, Kyle has had success coaching these type players. I just think it's fair to say if you just look at the words he said, look at some evidence like you had, if he has his chance, which now he does – to take somewhat of a swing for the fences. Because typically the Cousins, the Jimmies, the Goffs, like best case scenario, they're a double. And as we saw with Matt Ryan, like he's probably better than that. He's probably more like a triple. But even him, like his ceiling is capped.
Yeah. To your point, the Mac Jones stuff, it's not illogical talk.
Yeah, I don't think it's lazy analysis for people to say, and this gets back to defending Mac Jones. I think he's better than the way everyone's shitting on him for.
I think the illogical part of it is assuming, and accept this premise. I don't think anybody's like to say Mac Jones is safe. I don't buy that. Because I don't think anybody's ever really. There's only a handful of guys that are ever safe. But I think where the analysis, the general consensus misses the boat, is talking about Kyle like he's not a risk taker. Where I think actually his history tells us he is a risk taker.
Look at this move right here, guy.
Yeah, look at this move right here. I think he is that. And I think the way he's talked about Josh Allen, what he saw up close and personal with Patrick Mahomes, I think these are the guys, Fields and Lance, I think these are the guys that he naturally, deep in his DNA, they can do more stuff. What does Kyle want to do? Kyle wants to do as much cool stuff as he can.
People forget the game that Jimmy tore his ACL was against the Chiefs. Remember? I'm pretty sure they were down 35-0 at half, and Mahomes, that was like Mahomes' MVP season, and it was just like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? So he's witnessed just some remarkable games from just Mahomes now twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can say, well, there's only one Mahomes. I'm not saying they're going to draft a Mahomes. I'm just saying you just aspire to get more toolies guys. Like have guys with the physical attributes, physical tools. He would just go, well, even Andy claimed he loved Mahomes. Like I've been saying forever, they'd be the first to admit he's infinitely better than they ever envisioned. Like they thought he'd be a top 5 type quarterback. They didn't think he'd be the best quarterback of all time. Now maybe Veach, who actually went on record before he'd ever started a game, said it was the best player he'd ever scouted. But when the best player you ever scouted, it just means it's like his ceiling. It's actually his floor is way higher in your view than if the guy just becomes a good player than like he's going to be Dan Marino or John Elway. He's just saying the talent there is stupid. That's
also,
what it's basically saying.
We use Mahomes all the time, and you're right, there's only one Mahomes, but there's a slew of other athletic, really good quarterbacks that have been game changers in the sport.
Yeah.
We could name them they're not the majority, but we could talk about them forever, right?
You're even talking you're saying like a Randall Cunningham type?
Yeah, I'm talking about Steve Young, Deshaun Watson. We start talking about those guys.
Michael
right?
Vick. Yeah, whoever.
Donovan McNabb. Like we just start going down the list of guys. There's just, they don't have to be Patrick Mahomes to be great players. And I think part of my premise.
If I told you Justin Fields was going to be Donovan McNabb, would you say you have to take that?
Yes. In a heartbeat, you would have to take that. Yeah. And part of the premise here is like Donovan McNabb probably was as good as he could be with Andy Reid. I think Kyle Shanahan will get the most out of any of these guys. I think he'll get more out of them than most other teams would. Right?
Yeah.
You go to McVay, you go to Sean Payton, okay. But Kyle's at the top of that list with them. So the more I think about it, we got a long way to go. Things happen. I think it would be out of his character to draft Mac Jones, not in his character.
I think that Donovan McNabb is a good one. We get into some comps here in a second. Okay, but I think Donovan McNabb, people would say he's like a fringe, like really good, not a Hall of Famer, but definitely better. Like was a 4 or 5, 6-time Pro Bowler. He changed Andy Reid's life, right?
You gave him a chance to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, you had shots to. You just all you can ask
over
is
and over and over.
All you can ask is the chance.